Thought I would make a little extra video here early this morning while the school bus was running. Don't mean to get it, but in honor of our red, white, and blue flag pertaining to Old Glory, I thought I would go ahead and display here publicly that in which what I had done later last night in honor of our veterans. I ordinarily have something hanging over the military memorial. This year I've had a messed up left ankle and I couldn't climb the ladder like I should. And because of it, I chose to do it this way. I put that flag there representing the blood flag up on the pole, and Jolly Rangers pertaining to mission successful, in that in which what I have painstakingly been a part of out here since I moved out here in 2014. Nowhere near completed with the Purple Heart Memorial Site out here at Northwest Tennessee at 291 Thompson Road. But, you know, in each year's passing, I get a little of this done, a little of that done. Just wanted to let people see and know that that even though I hadn't been able to achieve what I wanted to achieve out here this year because I've been so busy, I guess, associating myself with political affairs in which drastically I didn't have intentions of doing, but because of the significance of everything that was happening this year, I felt like that it was crucially important for me to get involved a little more so with making videos and stuff in regards to our men and women in uniform. That's old America. I don't know if I ever told you or not, but James Robert Jackson, that fought in World War II, him and his brother, and many, many more, that was willing to sacrifice the ultimate sacrifice for you and me today of having what we have today. Mr. James Robert Jackson, my biological dad, most everybody known him as Bob, wound up in the Martin Hospital, and I wound up there. This was before I went up there another time with Miss Bobby Sue, that basically he run me out of the room, and because the disturbance was so loud, they decided to tell us just to go ahead and leave the hospital. But I went in there and I caught him asleep, and I had the Betsy flag, a brand new one, that I had recently gotten. And I went ahead and took some little needles and tacked it to the side of the wall before I awakened him. And then after I awakened him, he was, trying to get awoken, getting the cobwebs out of his eyes. I go, "Dad, what's that on the side of your wall over there?" He turned his head. Like I said, he was in the hospital room, laying in the bed. And as soon as I noticed that he noticed what was on that wall, I seen his eyes light up like never before. And his whole expression of his face changed. And I go, "Do you recognize that?" He goes, "I sure do." I go, "Well, what is that?" He said, "That's Old Glory." And I'll never forget that expression on his face because of that in which what he fought in World War II to preserve. There's one other thing I want to say before I go to the video that's on TV right now that WPSD fortunately has put out this morning in honor of our veterans. Is so many people are so mixed up pertaining to God and Christianity and duty and honor and what's noble, loyalty, pertaining to serving here in America, is that I felt like that this needed to be discussed this morning pertaining to, I believe, some misinformation that has been put out there pertaining to the United States military. And I tend to wonder if this has been put out by the devil and the devil's people just because of a cowardly group of people that wants to lean towards some sort of an excuse not to join the military, is that they use this excuse that a true Christian shouldn't have to fight even at the time of war. Well, I got news for you. If you know anything about good and bad, if you know anything about God and the devil, if you know anything about the historical facts out of the Bible, the whole Bible is written in response towards good and bad, evil and righteousness. And it began with a war, according to the Bible, in heaven, where a tumult or a mutiny had been formed, to where one particular angel at that time, which was the Luciferian Lucifer, that decided that he was going to rule the heavens and that he had the authority to do so, and basically talked a great deal of the other angels at the time into the same type of involvement that turned into a major war in heaven, to where the devil got kicked out and a third of those angels got kicked out with him. Today, those angels are no longer angels. Their whole concept and their whole identity has changed because of their mindset and because of their rebelliousness against the Heavenly Father, against the very kingdom of God. Now, those angels are called demonic spirits. They're no longer called angels. And they're no longer permitted to ever go back into the heaven, up into the kingdom, because of that in which what they have done. The whole time they have come down here and they have tried to bring chaos. They have tried to bring distress. They have tried to bring pain and agony. And they have tried to bring confusion to the degree that a lot of people want to blame God for the very things that they should be blaming the devil for. Because it was the devil that contaminated the Garden of Eden. It was the devil that brought harm and hurt and agony and sorrow into the world's existences. And it was the devil that thought that he was above and beyond any type of accountability. Whenever I look back at my childhood and I can see the damages that was done to my family in regards towards my biological father being associated with World War II to the degree that he come back home with post-traumatic stress disorder that wasn't diagnosed at that time towards being that. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they called it shell shock or something on that degree. But whenever I look at all the families that have sacrificed similar type fates and how that they had to suffer and sacrifice all in the name of an American patriotism, in how that they was abused as children, how that they had to go through some very, very hard knocks and pains in growing up. I can honestly say that the people that was associated with the World War II veterans, which thank God for them, okay, and the vast majority of them aren't even with us any longer. They're already dead. But I can honestly say that the sacrifices that was made on the count of people not identifying these problems and the people not willing to defend the lives of the innocent pertaining to the scars of war went beyond most anything imaginable if one has never been subject to a military background parent, male or female, and just exactly what went on in that era after World War II had ended during the late 50s, 60s, and the 70s towards the abusivenesses that went on in people's lives. I believe that any true patriot should be able to identify the Bible, and the Bible represents the things of good more so than the things of bad, to the extent that we are willing to fight and, yes, even pay the ultimate sacrifice for, if needed, to be able to stand true to that cause, the same cause that our ancestors was willing to stand up for, and the same cause that even to this day our true veterans are still willing to stand up for. The United States Army, even going back into the cavalry era, was never designed to be a brutal, vicious, um, pillaging, overthrowing type organization that wanted to defeat and control its own citizens in a barbaric, heathenistic, cruel way. There's things about the Army that are just as gentle and as professional and as polite as they are aggressive. We must learn that sometimes, because of the adversary that does want to dictate to us and dominate us, that this is the reason for our great grand design here in America pertaining to our United States military, regardless of what branch that they may serve. And they serve in these branches because of knowing, standing up for the things that are right, even at the ultimate expense of paying the ultimate sacrifice for. A lot of people think that if they're a Christian, they're not supposed to have to fight, and that they're not supposed to take up arms in retaliation towards evil trying to dominate or dictate into the good people's lives. Well, if that would be the case, America would no longer be America, and the freedoms that you and I have today would no longer exist, nor would they have ever existed, and we would be like all these other communist-controlled countries today that don't recognize and don't know the pleasures of being free, because they are held under this type of evil, demonic regime, regardless whether it be North Korea, regardless whether it be China, regardless whether it be Russia, regardless whether it be Cuba or other known entities that wants to dominate their citizens in this type of barbaric, evil way. And that includes the regime over in Iran, where the people are rising up and speaking their piece. This includes the Saudi Arabia regime. This includes other regimes that wants to dictate and dominate its people in a barbaric, heathenistic, cruel way. That's what America don't do. That's what American military don't do. American military will step in if there's a bad ordeal that goes on to try to resolve the problem and to maintain some sort of law and order. But by and large, even if you're a Christian, that's where I believe that God will pardon those that took place in those type of activities, because it was the kingdom of God that had taught us through the teachings of the Lord Jesus Christ, as well as the book of Revelations, that there comes a time to where hate actually is a godly thing. If it wasn't a godly thing, God himself would have permitted for the Luciferian Lucifer to have remained in heaven. You have to use a little bit of common sense whenever you look at the Bible pertaining to hate, as it speaks of there to the churches in the first 4 chapters of Revelations. For he hate those that profess to be Jews and are not. And he also hates those that practice the deeds of the Nicolaitans, going all the way back to the Persian Empire, pertaining to that type of barbaric, heathenistic ruling. Freedom has never been free. If you go back to the original origin of when people were standing up against these barbaric, cruel, evil people, and I just want to take my hat off today and say thank you to all the veterans. And yes, I know those that are aware of my testimony realizes and knows that I've been let down by the community, and I think for a good reason. Those that was pallbearers to my second oldest brother whenever he got killed in 1976, and a community by and large that basically was either frightened of my father, or they was so mean themselves that they enjoyed the type of brutality that was going on in the neighborhood to James Robert Jackson's family. The sad thing about it is it wasn't just going on in my family, it was going on across the board all over the United States, of those that was committing such barbaric, heathenistic acts upon to their family, while others stood by for whatever reason that didn't offer a hand of assistance in stopping that type of brutality. Today, the doctors understands that post-traumatic stress disorder does in fact occur. and is occurring even to this day with people that has been traumatized. And you can be traumatized over an accident. You can be traumatized over somebody trying to rob you, or somebody trying to shoot at you, or somebody that's done something to you, somebody that's raped you, somebody that's really violated you in some sort of bad way. There's all kinds of ways that you can have post-traumatic stress disorder other than just going to war. But by and large, that's what life is. Life is a gamble, and it's a war between good and evil, between right and wrong, between the entities of the dark side versus the entities of the light. And that's one reason why that we depend upon our first responders to this day, that by and large, they're supposed to be good people. By and large, our courts are supposed to be good courts. By and large, our courts is supposed to be fair-minded, and they're supposed to do the things for the will of the people according to a godliness behavior or a godliness nature. It's only whenever that environment changes that brings consequences like we're seeing today towards all the destruction and the pain and the agony. I was very let down during the times that I was going through the things that I was going through up in Kentucky, especially standing either in front of a federal judge or a state judge, by me being persecuted for the things that I believed in and the things that I was willing to die for and still are willing to die for, in standing up for the ways of righteousness versus the ways of unrighteousness. I have learned since then that obviously this demonic spirit that has plagued the American land didn't just plague this particular neighborhood, but it has plagued the whole country. That was one reason why that so many people, as far as I was concerned, was out of their freaking minds, just on account of media, TV, that was bringing back images from our men and women in uniform that was fighting during the Vietnam War, that was basically spitting on these people as they was getting off the airplanes and booing them and degrading them because they had witnessed some of the things that the atrocities that they was having to be subjected to while defending our freedoms. As far as I'm concerned, those people that done that was not grateful for our men and women in uniform, will stand in a special place in hell one day because they either chose not to understand that sometimes bad things happen to good people, and sometimes good people has to do bad things. And the reason why is because evil still lurks around the corner. We know that the Luciferian Lucifer that originally got kicked out of heaven, that, like I said a while ago, is no longer considered an angel, but considered an evil demonic spirit. That evil demonic spirit is just as live today as what it was whenever the two brothers, Cain killed Abel over a blood sacrifice versus a grain sacrifice. We know that the same evil exists today, if not even more so, because the Bible teaches us that Satan will come down in great wrath in the last days, in knowing that his time is short. And whenever I say short, I'm not just talking about the shortness of our particular lives or our particular government or other governments that stand for good measure, but I'm talking about God's timetable, that the time has come for these Luciferian Lucifers to surrender and for them to put their armory down, either their military armory or their spiritual armory, that the time has come for them to surrender and for them to put their selves down to the degree of giving the devil his dues, and that in which what now he has brought upon to not only himself, but his whole party. So many people didn't want to see the manifestation of the end time days. And that's the reason why that I believe to this day that so many people allowed for my father to do what he done and basically thought that he was going to get away with it. So many people didn't care about the righteousness of God, though they claimed that they did. They claimed that they did, but would they themselves be willing to pick up a piece of armory to be able to protect either themselves or their very own country that they live in? Well, we know today that there's a lot of people that won't. And we know today that there's a lot of people that are mixed up. But just because there's people in the land that won't, and just because there's people in the land that are mixed up, does not give people such as myself the right to want to crawl off into a hole somewhere and stick my head into a sandbox like an ostrich, trying to imaginate that none of this evil exists, and as long as it was out of sight and out of mind and not bothering my particular life, that we was not going to offer any type of assistance in being the good Samaritan towards standing up against evil. I know that the people in Land Between the Lakes, I know that the people in Western Kentucky, I know the people in Northwest Tennessee, and I know the people that I engage my life in with out in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, will one day have to give an account for the things that they have done towards the attacks that they have brought upon to the founder of the Windmill Ministries. But just because those bad people was bad does not make everybody bad. Just because our American government, because of various politicians, has done some bad things, does not make our United States military a bad military. That's the reason why that I make the videos that I make, especially on days like today, pertaining to the things that America has went through, going all the way back to the Revolutionary War, whenever our ancestors was willing to stand up and say, you know what, this isn't right, and we're going to rebel against this wrongness that is happening to us, and we're going to be willing to fight for it, even at the expense of paying the ultimate sacrifice for. Now, one other further example I want to give before I let go of this, pertaining to so many people that was mixed up here in America that wanted to blame Joe Biden for the conditions that Donald J. Trump had set a sail before Donald J. Trump ever left office towards the people in Afghanistan, had already come to an agreement that we as an American military was no longer going to be in their presence, and we had a certain time frame to walk through according to the agreement that we had made, or that Donald J. Trump had made in response towards them not bringing bloodshed into the existence of the American government while we was leaving Afghanistan. We had already trained the Afghanistan people in how to fight. We thought that they had the goals, the intentions, the desires. We had given them the ability to have the advanced technology to be able to fight. But yet now, when we did finally leave, and it was quite an abrupt exiting service that the American military done, but we still fulfilled that duty. We still fulfilled that promise. And less than 11 days later, we see where the Afghanistan people did not honor their own will and did not honor their own commitment, and basically laid down and allowed for the Taliban to take back over those people's lives. I couldn't tell you the amount of people that took their disgusted opinions, and rather than looking at the truth of the matter towards who was actually the ones that should have been shamed, they was shaming Joe Biden. They was shaming the American government because things did not go according to other people's will. But at the same time, since the February occurrence has taken place over in Ukraine in regards towards poisonous Putin and his evil empire that Ronald Reagan discussed, that was in fact the evil empire, I've heard these very same people that wanted to degrade America because America was sponsoring and helping the Ukrainians in supplying them with artillery and weaponry to defend their cause. We would have done the exact same thing if it would have turned into a bloodbath over in Afghanistan, and our United States military knew this. They knew this, that if the people would have stood up and fought as we had taught them to fight for their freedom, for their liberty, America would have been right back in Afghanistan backing those same people. But instead, they surrendered. They laid down. They gave up any type of hope or any type of dream in regards towards the Afghanistan people becoming independent the same way today as what we see with the Ukrainian people. The point that I'm trying to make by bringing these two analogies into the same equation at the same time is that we have people in America that are so mixed up, they want to criticize the wrong people for an event that happens, knowing good and well that we did not intentionally intend for the Afghanistan people to roll over and not fight, just like the people that usually are the same people that want to criticize America, because now America has gotten involved towards wanting to sponsor or support a group of people that is willing to fight, even to the extent of the ultimate sacrifice for pertaining to the Afghanistan people. There's so many bad people here in America that it's absolutely a shameful disgrace to think that our men and women are willing to put on a uniform and go to war and take on ongoing military fire at the expense of either getting wounded or killed just for these people. Well, that's just it. They're not sacrificing their lives for those people, even though those same people that I'm talking about are part of America. Because those are the people that are basically mixed up, confused. They don't know their God. They don't know their purpose. They don't know basically where they stand. They're lukewarm. They're fence straddlers, and they really don't know who they are or what they are. Those aren't the people that our military people are actually standing up for, though they're standing up for those same people. But the people that our military is standing up for are for those that are willing, through the brotherhood of the vow that has been made for the past hundreds of years since the Revolutionary War, that yes, bad things can happen to good people, But at the same time, good people sometimes has to do bad things. And until we acknowledge that here in America, towards not only our United States military, but also pertaining to our police force, our law enforcement agencies that are spread abroad all over this country, that gets demonized and criticized and humiliated on a day-to-day level because of them trying to do their jobs, simply because of a group of people that either don't understand or they themselves are of an evil source and they're trying to defend evil versus trying to defend good. It has caused so much confusion and so much hardship in America that it's not even funny. And yes, there are bad cops. There are bad cops, just like the cops that engaged themselves in killing George Floyd and other people out here that have purposely went out of their way to want to destroy individuals' lives, even such as my own. But just because there's bad cops does not make the system a bad system. And I would be a very, very foolish, arrogant individual if I wanted to put everybody in the same league, everybody in the same bushel basket, by saying the whole thing is nothing but a sham and we need to do away with law enforcement and we need to cut back on our military commitments. Because I know by and large what has come in and spoiled that ideology. I know by and large what has come in and confused those people that want to bring up those affairs. And like I said, yes, police reform does need to happen. It needs to be more open. And that's probably one reason why that I've told my story again and again and again by putting out all these social media platform videos like I have, either on Facebook or YouTube, towards getting my message out there. But I want my message to be clear that even though I'm a good man, or I believe that I'm a good man, I'm not a perfect man. I'm not a perfect man. But even though I'm a good man, that are, yes, willing to take up arms to go against the axis of evil, I was not treated according to the way that I thought that I was supposed to have been treated here in America by the very people in this neighborhood that was spitting on me, degrading me, because I wanted to eradicate the axis of evil. And the axis of evil isn't just some faraway land of a group of people that's doing bad things to their own citizens or to other people. That evil entity lives within our own society right here in America. It lives within our own culture right here in America. But the true veterans know this. They recognize this. And they know that what we've been up against all along has been this evil, Luciferian entity that has brought so much hardship and so much pain to so many people's lives that it is not funny. But we're smart enough to identify where it has all come from, and we're also smart enough and willing to fight up against it, just like the Bible talks about, towards kicking this evil entity out of our lives and out of our communities and out of our country. So in honor of our veterans, I felt that was necessary for me to say, because Satan, the Luciferian Lucifer, is the author of confusion, and he has taken such of a toehold upon to the American people's lives. It has only been by the grace of God that another January 6th ordeal did not occur during this last 2022 election that recently we are trying to get over, that even to this day we still don't know all the facts pertaining to the voting arrangements of who won and who did not win. And it will probably take several more other days But we will get to the bottom of it, as we always do, and we will figure out who rightfully won and who did not rightfully win. And the reason why is because of what that star right there stands for, pertaining to the Star of David, the Shield of David. That we know that getting the story right and getting the truth out is the proper and right thing, regardless of what side may dominate the other side in the house. We have learned to accept the facts in this particular system that we have over here, towards not everybody can be winners, not everybody's going to be losers, but we pull together as a team. I want to show you this, that now the WPSD News has brought forth in this special on this particular day, in honor of our freedoms, in honor of those who have paid the ultimate sacrifice, and in honor of those that will pay the ultimate sacrifice in the future for the very things that I just talked about for our freedoms.
Happening today, Veterans Day, and a happy Veterans Day to all of you who have served. It's a day to celebrate and honor all of the people who have committed their lives to service and sacrifice. There are a lot of events happening today to honor those folks.
You can use your phone right now and scan that QR code at any time to see that list. We're going to take a live look into the Reveille downtown Paducah in just a second, Sunrise Reveille. But first, the rest of the day's events include free food for veterans and, of course, the annual parade. The opening ceremony for that begins at 10 at Dolly McNutt Plaza. The parade begins at 11 and it's at 6th and Washington Streets.
The way we have celebrated this holiday has changed over the years, but the reason we celebrate has not. Part of why today is so important is to teach younger people the importance of recognizing who our veterans are and why their sacrifice is and was and always will be so great.
Local students in our community participated in poster contests and essay contests with specific themes. And earlier in the week, the winner of the high school division's essay contest, Zaina Yaji, joined us in studio to read her words about how we should honor veterans in our community.
Although veterans should be some of the most honored and respected people for all they have done to protect our country, sadly, many of them are extremely underappreciated. There are many ways we can change this. One way we can honor our veterans is by learning American Sign Language, also known as ASL. So many of our service men and women are deaf or have some form of hearing loss caused by explosions or other loud sounds during combat. Even if we don't learn to use ASL fluently, simply learning the basics such as the ABCs can help us to communicate with the veterans in our community. There is also many small things we can do to help honor our brave veterans. One of the easiest things that we can do to help our veterans is to donate food and clothing to community closets and kitchens in our area. There is a significant number of veterans who are homeless or simply in need that look to these places for food, clothing, and shelter. In addition, we can donate money to charities to support veterans and shop at veteran-owned businesses. By supporting our veterans financially, we can hopefully keep more of them off the streets. Our veterans sacrifice so much in order to keep our country safe and protect our freedom. It is only fair to do our best to honor them in any way possible to thank them for their service. If we each make a small effort, we can make a big impact towards honoring our veterans as they deserve to be honored.
All right, thank you so much, Zaina. And other winners of the poster and essay contest include, in K through 2 category, Lena Osborne.
Now, the reason why that I said what I said a while ago about my own dad, and it took me a few years after he was dead and gone before I finally realized that he, in fact, did have post-traumatic stress disorder. Take under the account that he was probably misused and treated that way himself as growing up as a child is the reason why that he abused his own children. But it didn't ignore the fact of the responsibilities that the community should have took a part of towards what they didn't do during the time of this sickness. Is that my father, in the events of any loud loud noises. It didn't matter if it was loud noises pertaining to a radio being played too loud, or if it was loud noises pertaining to him being around a lot of equipment. He got disoriented. He got confused. It 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 affected him to the point that he couldn't stay focused upon what he needed to stay focused upon. And I myself couldn't tell you how many times that he would scream and yell at me because my radio was too loud, because he was in the passenger seat and I was in the driver's seat and I was playing music. And like I say, it took me a while to understand that he had a disorder that would literally make him, I guess, come unhinged. And I'm sure it was probably because of him being around all the tanks shooting and all the machine gun fire, and because a hand grenade blew up and basically scattered his best buddy in the military all over himself, as well as himself got injured from this hand grenade. That has a profound effect upon people's lives whenever they go through stuff like that. And because of that, I can look through the BS. I can look through the smoke. I can look through all the other gossip and the confusion. And I can sincerely say that though my family suffered relentlessly because of the war crimes that had been committed during World War II, that if I had it to do all over again, I would gladly go through the exact same abusivenesses that I went through as a young child for the freedoms of our country today. Now, that isn't to say that I wanted to go through those things during the time that I wanted to, during the time that I went through those things, and it's not to say that I want to go through those things today. But I for darn sure don't want nobody else to go through those things. And that was one of the primary principles for me coming back to Northwest Tennessee, and my brother and I discussing this very, very thoroughly, because he went through the same ordeals of what I went through, basically. And we both came to the same conclusion, that these people need to be educated. And they need to be showed their mistakes, that hopefully those same mistakes won't be made again in other people's lives, in other families' lives, to the degree that people idly sit by and allow for children to be destroyed, while others either take pleasure in watching them be destroyed or just don't care that they're being destroyed. There was a lot of darkness that went on during that era after World War II towards PTSD of various people that had went through similar, if not worse, scenarios of what that our family went through. And I just pray and hope on this particular Veterans Day, by putting out this particular message, that it will be to help to enlighten of understanding the disease that the scars of war create, but it will also be to teach those who love their country that just because you're a Christian does not give you the right not to be a patriot. If anything, if you are a true born-again Christian, that should give you the incentive towards wanting to be a good American patriot, because we know that evil exists, and we know that the promises of God, the Heavenly Father, are forever real, forever true, and that one day, not only will we see the physical entity of evil be destroyed, but we will see the spiritual entity of evil be destroyed. According to the Bible that I read, coming out of the King James Version Bible, that Luciferian Lucifer, that evil entity, will one day, the devil will get its dues in what it has brought upon the society, to the degree that God the Father will grab this evil entity and throw it into hell, where it will suffer for the rest of ever in pain and agony, and it will no longer have any type of influence towards influencing humanity or confusing humanity in these ungodly, demonic, paranormal forms. Let's listen to the rest of this in honor of our veterans.
Now Osborne from Hendron Lonoke Elementary in the 3rd through 5th grade group, Eli Hughes from Concord Elementary, and for middle schoolers, Jakia Walden from Paducah Middle. Later today, we'll find out who will be honored as this year's Distinguished Veteran and Patriot Award winners. The Distinguished Veteran Award is given to a local veteran who has made a difference in the community. The Patriot Award honors a non-veteran who dedicates their time to serving veterans and veteran causes in the community. We'll see who won both of these awards at the pre-parade award ceremony and also on Local 6 midday.
See, that's something right there that he just got through discussing that they're doing over in Western Kentucky, that I feel like all communities should be a part of, especially this time of year in Veterans Day and honoring our veterans, is that there are certain people, such as myself, that goes beyond the call of normal citizenship towards being a citizen versus an actual military veteran. But we've got citizens in our country that need to be observed and looked at because of the sacrifices that they have made in honor of our veterans. They deserve just as much recognition, in a way, as the veterans themselves, because of the sacrifices that they have been willing to make in honor of our United States military, regardless of what branch. These are all things that has been overlooked for years and years and years here in America, especially since a group of people thought it was cool or all right to start spitting on a bunch of military troops as they was getting off their airplanes because they seen something on TV that they didn't like, that they objected to, that they was willing to treat our veterans in such of a cruel, disrespectful way just because of their own personal appetites towards wanting to criticize others for doing stuff that they was willing to do, that odds are the ones that was doing the criticizing wasn't willing to do themselves. You talk about a bunch of backstabbers. You talk about a bunch of treasonous type people that has inundated this country in the way that it has. It is absolutely appalling to think that the true patriots, the true American people that love this country, are willing to put up with such BS as this. I realize there's bad cops that does bad things. I realize that there's bad people that don't understand good people's intentions, even though the good people had to do bad things. But by understanding that, we should be more flexible in doing the proper and right thing, just like what this individual is talking about that is going on right now in Western Kentucky today in honor of our men and women who have been willing to strap on that uniform and do whatever was required of them to do. So in honor of the Purple Heart Memorial here at 291 Thompson Road, Sharon, Tennessee, zip code 38255, I felt like that this particular testimony, that this particular message needed to be recorded and broadcasted. And hopefully YouTube and Facebook will allow for me to put this on there, that others can look at and observe. In observing our veterans, not for our own personal upliftings, but for the upliftings of the system that our ancestors created, that was unlike any other system pertaining to our open, fair, free elections and our democracy that stood and will always stand for the true republic of the global society.
Ceremony this afternoon at the McCracken County Courthouse. The Light to Unite ceremony starts at 4:30 this afternoon. It's in recognition of the Purple Heart Medal. It's actually a nationwide acknowledgement of the award and those who have received it. If you are a veteran, today's a good day to take advantage of some freebies, because there's some national restaurant chains that want to honor you.
A lot of places are offering free food to thank you for serving. If you're looking for breakfast, IHOP is giving away free red, white, and blue pancakes from 7 this morning till 7 tonight. Dunkin' Donuts is showing their support with a free donut of your choice, but you must go inside to get one. And for dinner, Logan's Roadhouse is giving out a free meal between 3 this afternoon and 6 o'clock tonight. Meanwhile, Texas Roadhouse is handing out meal vouchers from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Texas Roadhouse says those vouchers are good until May 30th, 2023. Keep in mind, to get any of these deals, you must show proof of your military service with your ID. And if you're a veteran, you can get a free last will and testament prepared by one of a few local attorneys who have pledged to donate their time and experience to serve those who have served us. Between 8 this morning and 3 o'clock this afternoon, veterans in Western Kentucky can call Hickman County Attorney Jason Batts to request a free will. That number is up on your screen now, 270-653-6924. All you need is proof of your military service. Batts will get you in touch with a local attorney to set up a time that is convenient to meet and prepare the documents.
Schools across the nation are getting ready to honor the men and women serving our country. That includes many of the schools in our area.
Ballard Memorial is hosting their annual Veterans Day program today. It starts at 1:15 this afternoon in the gym. We've got the address up on your screen, 3561 Paducah Road in Barlow. As part of the program, all of the school choirs will perform along with the Bomber Band. Veterans will be recognized, and there will be a candle lighting ceremony for all Ballard Countyans who lost their lives defending our country. The guest speaker this year is Barry Phillips. He's a member of the school district staff as health and PE teacher. He served on active duty from 2011 to 2015 and had one deployment to Afghanistan in 2014. He's currently serving as a drill sergeant in the U.S. Army Reserves. Now, some local schools already got a head start on Veterans Day. In Illinois, Vienna High School honored veterans yesterday with their annual program.
Vienna students hosted a Salute to Veterans program in front of the school. Take a look.
Star-Spangled Banner, yet wave. The Vienna High School choir sang the national anthem, followed by speeches recognizing the veterans in attendance. There were guest speakers, including Navy veteran John Pierman, who served our country for over 20 years, from 1983 to 2005. He says this event was special for him.
We've lived in a lot of places, and a lot of places don't do this. Small town America, like Vienna, that's special. It really is.
Now to Livingston County, Kentucky. Students of all ages gathered together for their annual Veterans Program at the high school. It was an important opportunity for students to learn why we honor those brave men and women who served or are currently serving in the military. And as you can see, students were taught about the significance of folding the American flag and doing it properly. During the service, several students even shared poems and inspirational writings in tribute to veterans.
Because of the significance of that in which what I had to go through in Livingston County, I feel like that I need to say this. Before the 2009 major ice storm that caused so much damage to their electrical grid system, that the governor of the state of Kentucky basically had to declare, I think, about 70 or more counties a state of an emergency towards bringing out the National Guard. I realize that there was some bad people that wanted to do some bad things to the founder of the Windmill Ministries missions here in Northwest Tennessee. Those same people are the very people that I talked about earlier that will have a special place in hell because of that in which what they tried or attempted to do in taking something that was meant to help society and trying to turn it around in acting as if that I was trying to harm or hurt society. They was wanting to image me, put me in an image or a category of being a monster. And those same people, as far as I'm concerned, are in fact monsters. Now, just because there was some monsters in Livingston County, Kentucky, does not make Livingston County, Kentucky a bad county. Because by and large, there are good, decent people in Kentucky. Just like there was a group of people right here in Martin, Tennessee, associated with the Weakley County judicial system pertaining to their courts, that took it upon themselves in 2005 that they was going to try to image me, of putting me in this dark category of having this ideal or this image that I was a monster. And the whole time, the people that was the monsters, that was the people that was putting me in these images, or trying to put me in these images right here in Weakley County, that also began over in Kenton, Tennessee in the early 80s. Why this contamination has befallen upon to our great nation is only for one reason, is because we have left our true cause in God Almighty. There's so many people that has been confused, disoriented, not knowing what to do, how to believe, when to believe, why to believe. And I don't mean to be picking on the Jehovah's Witness or some of the Mennonites or the Mormons, but those that want to come to America that are not willing to stand for the same causes that we stand for. And this definitely includes the illegal immigrants that are steadily flowing over here to America, should not be allowed to live in America if you do not have the same desires as we do, that are willing to take up arms if necessary and fight for those rights. I know that ex-chief David Moore, Tommy Moore, the judge here, Mike Pence, Tommy Thomas, Mike Wilson, and other law enforcement agencies, as well as political parties, regardless whether it was Randy Brundage or Damian Cross or whoever, has purposely tried to destroy an individual's life, as well as Homeland Security, up in Wheeling, West Virginia, that began in Washington, D.C. I know that these people will get ultimately what they deserve one day because of that in which what they have done. And I'm sure if they've done it to one, they've probably done it to many towards attacking good people and trying to make them people out to be monsters. Why the very people that was being the monsters was the people that was trying to project them as being monsters. But if this has happened to me, I'm pretty sure that it's happened to probably millions of other people all over this great land that we call America. But I also know this, that you have failed in your attempts towards destroying us, towards destroying our image, and towards destroying this country. And a lot of them will tell you, well, we're not trying to destroy nothing. It's your whole demeanor that has brought this type of destruction into so many people's lives here in America that now ultimately almost everybody is paying the consequences towards. And if we're not willing to acknowledge that, and if we're not willing to do something about that, then these particular entities are only going to grow just like a cancer and going to get worse and worse and worse. Now, these entities that I'm talking about are imposters. They'll tell you that they care about you. They'll tell you that they love their country. They'll tell you that they're willing to die for the cause of their country. But these are the people that have already become disoriented in our sole purpose of what our ancestors originally had back years ago. And evil is not supposed to dominate good. And if anything, I think it was a movie that I seen where there towards the last, this guy was in court, and I forgot the name of the movie. Maybe I should know the name, but for some reason I've had a mind block. And there towards the last, the guy basically